Welcome to another Fear No Fix video. Today we're working on our 2004 Ford F-150 with a 5.4 liter engine. We're going to be replacing a fuel injector, which you may need to do if you have a P0171 or a P0174 or a P0200 to P0208 or any misfire code.
Additionally, if you're getting any codes or you're seeing that you're having a lean or a rich condition, you're seeing bad fuel mileage, bad performance, your fuel injectors could be the culprits. Now, a few extra notes. We are going to be dealing with a bit of stored pressure here, so you're going to want to have some safety glasses, and we are probably going to leak a little bit of fuel, so have some rags, maybe have a fire extinguisher nearby just to play it safe. No open flame, just be extra careful. Let's go.
The fuel injectors on this engine are located on top of the engine on both sides. We're going to be replacing the fuel injector closest to me on the driver's side of the engine, but before we do that, we need to relieve the fuel pressure in the fuel rail. To do that, we're going to be disconnecting the fuel pump driver module from the rear of the vehicle and then starting the vehicle until it bleeds all of its own pressure. Now we're going to disconnect our fuel pump driver module. It's located back here near the rear of the truck. You squeeze and pull on the clip. Okay, now that we have the fuel pump driver module disconnected, we can go ahead and start the truck and relieve the pressure. We have to do this because there is no specific fuse or relay for the fuel pump directly. Okay, Chris, start it up. And there we go. Our fuel pressure is relieved and we can get on with the repair. Because we're working around fuel, I'm going to disconnect the battery to make sure that we don't get any sparks and cause a fire. Okay, next we're going to remove our air intake plumbing. We need to remove this 10mm bolt right here. We're going to lift up and pull it out. Next, we're going to clean the area around all of these fuel injectors. And we got to clean all of them even if we're replacing one, because once we remove this fuel rail, all of them will pop out of their sockets. Next, we're going to remove the PCV hose. There's a tab around the back, and you want to pull it out and pull up gently. Next, we're going to disconnect our mass airflow sensor to get this wire out of the way. Next, we're going to remove our throttle cable. Next, we're going to remove the connector for our PCV valve. You may not need to disconnect all of these depending on which injector you're doing, but for us, we're going to use these to get more access. Now we'll remove this connector right here. I'll remove this hose. Now we're ready to remove the fuel rail. To do that, we need to remove this 8mm bolt and this 8mm bolt. Before we go any further, when we remove this fuel rail, fuel will spill out of the rail, even though we've removed the pressure. So I'm going to put a rag next to the rail and try and get and cover as much of them as possible. Now we're ready to remove the fuel rail. We grab onto the fuel rail and pull up with a small wiggle, but be careful to make sure no debris ends up down in the engine. We're going to be replacing this injector here. I'm going to remove the connector. And now we can remove the injector from the fuel rail. Whoops, make sure you have a rag underneath your injector when you pull it off. Let me get a rag and clean that up. Here's our old injector. We need to make sure that we got both the top and bottom O-rings off when we pulled it out. And here's our new injector. We need to transfer over the hardware. To transfer the hardware, I'm going to use a pair of channel lock pliers, and I'm going to come in from behind, and I'll slowly pry it off. You want to keep a good grip on this so it doesn't fly across the room. To install this clip, we take our new injector and we just push it on. And now we'll switch over this piece. We're almost ready to install our new injector, but first we need to lubricate these two O-rings with engine oil. This engine uses 5W20. Now we're ready to install our new injector back into the fuel rail. The fuel rail has small detents that line up with the clips from the metal clip we transferred, and you just have to push it back into place. Before we reinstall the fuel injectors into the engine, we need to make sure that there's no debris that's going to fall into any of these holes. Ours look clear, so I just need to lubricate the other injector O-rings with oil, and we'll be ready. Before we reinstall our mounting bolts, I'm going to push on each injector to try and get it down as far as possible. Now we're going to use our 8mm bolts to bolt our fuel rail back down. Now I'm going to torque these mounting bolts to 89 inch-pounds or 7.4 foot-pounds. Now we're ready to plug in all of the connectors we removed on the way. So that's our injector plug-in. I'm ready to reconnect our PCV valve connector. And now our throttle cable. Our mass airflow sensor. Now we're ready to reconnect our PCV hose and go back to the back of the truck and reconnect our FPDM. To reconnect our fuel pump driver module, we're just going to grab the connector and put it back on the module. Now we're back at the front of the truck and we're going to connect our battery. Before we replace our air intake plumbing, we need to prime the fuel system and check for leaks. Chris, can you turn the ignition to on, please? Okay, that looks good. Next, we need to reinstall our air intake plumbing. And reinstall our 10mm bolt. Next, we torque the 10mm bolt to 80 inch-pounds or 6.67 foot-pounds. And now we're done.
Truck runs well, nothing's on fire, I'd call that a success.
If this video helped you, make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel. And hit that bell icon so you can be notified of any future videos. And until next time, fear no fix.